we doing today?
Oh, I'm just trying to talk to her. She's kind of having a rough day. She broke up with a boyfriend, and he kind of did it in a pretty rough way.
Depression is twice as common among females than it is in males. Preteens and teens will display a persistent sadness or irritability. They may appear withdrawn and act out in anger. These kids are at risk for a higher chance of suicide and self-harm. When working with these individuals, you want to maintain a calm voice and don't do sudden movements. Ask them, are you considering suicide? Most of all, respect their feelings. What they are experiencing is real to them, and be supportive. Let them know that you're here to help them, and remember, always, safety first.
Brain under construction, that's what teenagers are all about. And they're trying to process some very important information. And the combination of changes in influences by hormones and emotions and the capacity to manage all this, very difficult process.
I have major recurrent depression and anxiety disorder, and I've been in the hospital for 3.5 months out of this year. I know it's been hard for my parents to accept that there's something wrong with their daughter, because they've always had such high hopes for me, and to have something like this that's now, it's seriously getting in the way of all the plans we had. Next year I was going to be an au pair in France, and I was going to go to Washington University for school, and now I'm staying at home and going to St. Paul College. It's hard for them, and I know it is, but sometimes I wish they could just know what to say.
Depression is a factor in many of the behavioral issues of teenagers and preteens. When juveniles engage in excessive alcohol use, sexual promiscuity, antisocial aggression, or other severe risky behavior, depression is often a primary factor. Depression causes great turmoil and pain for both the individual and the family.
You know, my experience from working with kids and that have depression is, one thing I've realized and noticed over the years is that it very much presents itself in a much different way than it does adults. Depression in kids, from my experience, often comes across as, could be anger, it could be oppositional behavior, it could be challenging to direct or redirect. But I think with kids it's different because kids lack those skills that are necessary for them to overcome some of the obstacles that are associated with depression.
Depression is a mood disorder caused by a chemical imbalance in the frontal lobe of the brain and affects at least 1 out of every 10 high school students. Depressive illnesses are diseases that seem to be genetically based and tend to run in families. Life stressors increase the risk for a depression. Depression affects the total individual, including behavior, mood, and thoughts, as well as physical health, schoolwork, and the ability to handle everyday situations. Depression also affects basic biological functioning, such as sleep patterns and eating habits. Episodes of depression in children appear to last 6 to 9 months on average, but for some children, they last for years at a time. When children are in an episode, they do less well at school, have impaired relationships with their friends and family, suffer inside, and have an increased risk for attempted and completed suicide. Anxiety often accompanies depression.
I think with the depression, there's that anxiety that is not going to be easily medicated away, that is going to be an ongoing situation for them, especially if they're in an environment in their home that is helping to produce that anxiety. They could have anxiety about what's going on with their parents or their siblings, and that's not going to go away.
Depressed teens and preteens experience persistent sadness and increased irritability. Typically, they behave in one of two ways, either acting out in angry or antisocial ways, or becoming passive and withdrawn. Males more often turn their feelings outward and act out in ways such as fighting, destroying property, and running away. Females more often internalize their feelings. They may display excessive worrying, anxiety, loneliness, fear of losing their minds, and feeling unloved. Both males and females who suffer from depression are at risk for self-harm or suicide. Suicide is the third leading cause of death in youth aged 10 to 24.
Safety has to be an important concern. If your child says, "I think I'd rather die," I think that's like a red flag, and you have that child evaluated. There shouldn't be a level of a margin of error for those kinds of statements. Like, they probably didn't mean it, or maybe they were being manipulative.
That 12 kids a day commit suicide between the ages of 15 and 19. And that's significant. Nationally. And that all stems from something. I don't think a student wakes up one day and decides that they're going to end their life, that there are warning signs. And I don't want to turn this into a suicide tape, but it all starts somewhere.
Remembering that a juvenile with depression does not have the social skills for effective problem solving, here are a few strategies to help you interact more effectively. Safety is first. Whenever possible, obtain the history. Stay calm. Allow the juvenile to vent.
Well, I think the best approach in dealing with kids who have depression that maybe are showing signs of verbal aggression or an outburst is to make every effort to de-escalate by being calm, being very calm, allowing that student to talk if that's what that student wants to do. But the best thing to do is not to show aggression. My experience with the Des Moines Police Department is, have them come into a situation and try to make it better and try to calm the situation down. Because when tempers flare, when aggression occurs, it 9 times out of 10 makes the situation worse.
Focus on relationships and understanding.
I think that I see with the job that I have as a social worker for Hyatt Middle School is that trying to kind of clue the teachers in to what's going on with the student. Definitely maintaining a sense of confidentiality, but also helping that teacher understand what the background is within the family, what the background is with the student, so they can become more patient with that student.
They need to also develop relationships with a person that they feel safe with, so that they can use them to help them when they're feeling anxious. Because I think a lot of times depression comes out as either withdrawn behavior or anxious behavior.
Hey, Matt. How you doing, buddy?
Whoa, just stay away from me.
All right, relax.
Stay away from me. If you touch me, you'll be sorry you end up in the hospital.
All right.
Just stay away from me.
Okay.
All right, Matt, relax. Relax.
In any situation, the safety of everyone involved comes first. As an officer, when you feel the situation is safe, your response should include speaking calmly but firmly and give clear directions as to what you want the child to do. It is encouraged at the school to have a plan ready in place for when the outburst occurs. This will require the school personnel to work with the parent and possibly the child's therapist if they have one.
We noticed that something seemed to be a little off. He was very quiet. Even as a newborn, didn't cry much, didn't seem to want or need a lot of interaction, was more content to lay on a blanket and watch a light than he was to look at people's faces and talk with them, or have people try and make him smile. And every transition was difficult, from to getting him to take a bottle, and then from baby food to table food. And it was our daycare provider, who was my sister, noticed strange behavior and obsessions he wasn't even a year old, with ceiling fans and anything that would spin. And he would get on his hands and knees and rock for hours back and forth, completely within his own little world, and couldn't maintain eye contact with any of us. And took him to the pediatrician and said, "Oh, he's a boy." Just kind of slow to develop, and family was constantly trying to reassure us, but we just always felt that there was something off about him. And
he wore out like 2 or 3 of those spinning balls that you spin and it rolls around, and he went through 3 of those.
It just started off when I was 3. Didn't talk. Had little mini seizures, and I didn't know about them. And when they found out, it took a lot of work for me to write. At some point, then it got back to normal later on.
In the medical field, autism is considered a developmental disorder. There are many degrees of autism. They range from a milder condition such as Asperger's to a much more severe condition in which the child may be nonverbal.